A Kelowna man whose grandfather served in World War II wants to share the memories of his grandfather and tell us what kind of hero he was. Caleb Matthews' grandfather, Rio Joseph Jerome, served in the Canadian Navy on a merchant vessel. His job as a chief petty officer was to defend the supply chain and convoys. Matthews tells Castanet more about the job his grandfather did to serve his country.
When the Luftwaffe were flying over top and the U-boats and the German U-boats were underneath, he would have the gritty frontline stuff on being on the guns and defending the supply chain and the chain of command so the Canadian troops could get their troops sent to the front.
Because of his deep love and respect for his grandfather, Matthews received a very special gift from him when he passed away in 2013.
He gave them to me one day, decided near the end of his life in the last year or two, when he felt like he wasn't going to be around for much longer, that he wanted to give me these medals and say, you know what, these medals I want to pass on to you so that, I know it means a lot for Remembrance Day and you continue to remember, so passing those on to you. So those are the 5 medals that he was given for his service, which is astounding to me, so I'm very blessed to have these as a gift.
When Matthews was just 7 years old, he promised his grandfather that one day he would call him from the beach of Normandy. This was before cell phones were around, but years later when Matthews was 23, he and his brothers made a trip to Europe. He kept his promise and surprised his grandpa with a phone call.
So we stood on the beach, and then I turned to my brothers and I said, give me your phone. So he had a cell phone now, and he says, well, it's going to be a long call. I said, I'll pay whatever amount of money it takes to get through to my grandpa, because I made him a promise. And so my brothers handed over their phone. I called my grandpa Rio, said, Grandpa, I said, I'm standing at Normandy Beach, and he lost it.
Matthews also has his own way of remembering his grandfather every Remembrance Day.
I would always call him on the phone and say, Grandpa, I want to make this call. And he would usually go into the spiel of, there's others who did more than I did, and just playing the humble card of there's others in the front lines. But he really was in the front lines, and really, there's no sort of service that was less than any others. It just looked different. And so when he passed, I took the tradition onwards to call my grandma. So she's still alive, to say, hey Grandma, I'm calling on behalf of Grandpa. He's watching from heaven right now and would be really happy with this conversation. But I want to say thank you.
Matthews told me he wants to remind everyone that whether you had family that served in the war or not, it's important to honor those who served, because had it not been for their sacrifice, our way of life would look very different. Castanet News, Jaden Wozni, Kelowna.